What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 338 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. This is the Hot Tags edition of the week, where we're going to be breaking down some of the current events, rumors, news, gossip, bullshit, shenanigans, whatever the hell else words we want to put out there, scuttlebutt. What are some other words we could use?
Well, I know Bruce Pritchard is fond of rumor and innuendo.
Yeah, the rumor and innuendo. Chat me up.
I'm going to chat you up quite a lot tonight.
The two people that are going to be chatting you up is myself, as always, your host, Tony Mango, and joining me pretty much as always, we've got Robert DeFelice.
Yo, yo.
So, hot tag wise, let's start breaking down a couple of these stories. We are sort of more days than normal, since I had done the day ahead of time edition before, but another pretty slow news week. So sometimes in the past when we've done that, we've had 30 stories to get through in rapid succession. This time around we got 5. It's really sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not so good, but I think we got a decent enough couple of topics here. One major topic, and we're gonna get to that last, but let's get to a semi-big topic here, which is that there are rumors that there's major heat, quote-unquote major heat, on Big Cass. Primarily for one thing, but with a couple other things in the mix here. Do you remember that segment on SmackDown from 2 weeks ago, I think is what it was?
Where he beats up the midget?
Where he beats up the midget? Yeah. Supposedly, the way that this has gone down was, the original plan was he would just kick that guy, and that would be it. And he suggested, how about I beat him up after that? And Vince and or the other producers and writers and such said no. And he went ahead and did it. And that they're pissed off at him because he went against what they had said. So there's two contradictory things going on right now. And of course, you never know really what to believe when it comes to dirt sheets and stuff, because it's all supposed to be with a grain of salt. One side says that it's some people are kind of going to bat for him because they're saying, well, if everybody is supposed to be told, make sure that you kind of go against the grain a little bit and take some chances. And when you take your risks, then WWE will reward you for trying. And, that kind of philosophy of well, nobody wants to grab the brass ring and they're all just playing safe. The other side goes, this is another thing in a long stream of WWE not liking choices that Big Cass is doing. We had heard before that Big Cass had some heat on him because of his views on Donald Trump, and that was not necessarily the best thing that was earning him a lot of favors in WWE. So I'm leaning more along the lines
on Donald Trump.
I'm assuming that he's basically just a supporter.
Well, that's hypocritical, don't you think?
It is a little bit, especially since Donald Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame, and Vince McMahon's a huge supporter of him and such.
And Lindo works in the cabinet, and they've all been to the White House, and I mean, maybe he's probably a little more vocal than they want him to be because they want to separate themselves from that because they know it's a hot issue. But
or it could just be something where it's a lot of the locker room is Democratic, and then
I think it's actually the opposite. Anytime I hear any kind of political speech, it's usually on the Republican side. I know Ziggler's Republican, Orton's a pretty big Republican. So
Orton is? I didn't know about Orton.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick hot tag about Orton. He's underwent some kind of surgery and he's out for 2 months. So there you go. That's
torn meniscus, I believe.
I don't remember for sure. I just remember going he's not really in the middle of anything. That'll be fine.
He'll be back for SummerSlam.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Basically. But this Big Cass heat, that seems to be at least a little bit of an indicator of what's going on with him as far as booking goes right now, because they've been doing this thing lately where they've been saying that he's injured, even though he supposedly isn't injured. And tomorrow night on SmackDown, for those listening to this and you don't want to bother checking to see when we upload it, we're recording it pretty much right after Monday Night Raw. So we don't know what's going on for SmackDown 100%, but they did change one of the matches, which was Big Cass versus Samoa Joe for a Money in the Bank qualifier. That's been now changed to, if I'm understanding this correctly, Daniel Bryan versus Jeff Hardy in a last chance qualifier, although the winner of that fights Samoa Joe next week. So it's not a last chance qualifier. And I'm assuming under that
it's a last chance to qualify for the qualifier.
Yeah, last chance qualifying match to potentially win the Money in the Bank, to potentially cash in and possibly win the championship. So you might maybe possibly have a chance.
A lot of variables here.
Yeah. I'm assuming what is happening here is Big Cass is not injured, and that they just realized that they want to drag this out a little bit more. And instead, that this is going to be Daniel Bryan beats Jeff Hardy, who may be injured. I've been seeing some stuff about him limping and such. Maybe Daniel Bryan beats Jeff Hardy. We get Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe next week, and then Big Cass screws Daniel Bryan. Then we get Big Cass versus Daniel Bryan at Money in the Bank. Samoa Joe gets that spot anyway, and this kind of writes off Jeff Hardy for another couple weeks.
Well, do you think that they're just putting Daniel around these Money in the Bank qualifiers for the newsworthy aspect of it? Like, or do you think they would throw him in a Money in the Bank ladder match?
I don't think that they would put him in there anyway right now, necessarily. Like, they seem to be letting him work just whatever right now, so I don't think that that's necessarily 100% the issue, but it's different to let somebody wrestle normal matches versus do something that gimmicky, you know?
By the way, he was on Jericho's podcast, and he detailed what he had to go through to finally get cleared, and they made him run through a lot of testing, and, you know, as is pretty well known, he has to get checked immediately after every match, and, you know, they're really taking it light with him, but at the same time, everybody kind of jokes about the first spot they had him do was probably the most dangerous spot, which is the powerbomb on the apron,
Yeah.
which lets you know that they're like, okay, you're cleared, you're good to go. So we could see Daniel Bryan in a Money in the Bank
We could.
match.
I wouldn't be too shocked in the world if that were to happen, but I still think that this is just going to lead to Big Cass versus Daniel Bryan, and I'm also kind of thinking that with Extreme Rules coming up, that Big Cass just beats Daniel Bryan at Money in the Bank, and then they get another match at Extreme Rules. I don't think that this is really like major heat on Big Cass. I think it's kind of blown out of proportion.
I do think Big Cass will be a Chris Masters scenario where it's like 2005, Chris Masters was a big up-and-coming star. By 2007, he wasn't really important. You know?
By 07, it was like, that guy hasn't won a mid-card title yet. And then it was sort of like 2008, you're like, this dude. Yeah, I remember him. And then he came back in, like, what was it, like 2012 or something, and you're like, oh, fuck, he's not as big anymore. And then he left after making his pecs move, which was just like, that's your new gimmick? All right, well, you can go fuck off in TNA for a little bit.
And that's what I see for Big Cass. Like, I enjoy his stuff, but they're really just pushing the fact that he's big, and that's his thing. And if you've noticed, every time he gets in the ring with Bryan, they have Bryan punk him out, like, really bad. Like, he talks all tough, and then Bryan just immediately tears him apart.
Yeah, he hasn't really been getting the whole lot of the best end of the spectrum on this. That's why I think he's going to win at Money in the Bank if they do a separate match.
However, if they don't, you'll know for a fact that he's probably going to be cooled off for a while.
Yeah, and that is not good for SmackDown either, because they really kind of need more people like that. Although Almas is coming in right now, so maybe he takes out some of that, but they still don't have the biggest roster, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's going on with the news right now. It's not the biggest story, but we'll get to the biggest story. And we don't even know 100% about the biggest story, too. So that's another thing to factor in there. But another one of these is something that you were kind of filling me in on a little bit, but I figured we'd leave some of this talk to just the podcast itself. But Nikki Bella and John Cena are a couple again or something?
Well, it was almost immediately reported when they broke up that, you know, they're still spending nights together. Whatever.
Quote unquote spending nights. It's like, you might as well have a report that says, y'all still fucking, like, kind of thing.
And then there was the weird thing where, like, John Cena goes on the Today Show and is like, and I always think of this in the Miz mocking voice, because he literally just said, Nicole, I love you. I want to be the father of your children. I want to be your husband, and they showed this to Nikki at that weird NBC upfronts thing, and she was like, well, I'm shocked, I want us to be happy if we're together or separate, whatever. And today we got a report saying that they're pretty much back together and their bond is stronger than ever. Now, this is just a report that was, dropped in one of our group chats, but
it was a People magazine, right? I think it was People. I don't. This, what bugs me about this kind of thing? The other day, Nikki Bella was talking to somebody. I forget who it was, but it doesn't matter. It's some news outlets and shit. And she was complaining, saying that people shouldn't be saying that this is all a work and that it's like so offensive and that people don't understand how hurtful that can be. And everybody will understand much better on the next season of Total Divas. And it was like, that's a fucking shill plug. That's why people think that this is a work. And you got some people that are just kind of like, oh my God, I want them to be together. I'm going to follow this and like, like that kind of thing. And then you got other people like, pretty much like us, where we're just like, oh, shut up.
Well, I feel bad for them because it's not just them, even though they are celebrities and they're at the forefront of this. But even, you and I, in 2018, you yourself are a brand. Yeah. Even if you're just a garbage man in, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, you put something out offensive on social media and you're still going to lose your job as a garbage man.
Duke the dumpster.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame because it's so hard to tell what's authentic, especially with this situation, because at first when they got together, it was weird. And then you found out, wow, divas are getting a reality show right after you hear that they're together. And then there's this whole thing of, wow, John Cena's actually kind of a prick. Like he's making this girl sign a contract and he's very standoffish. And then they do the proposal on WrestleMania and you can't tell if it's real, fake, whatever. If it's real and they're happy, great. I just wish that everything wasn't so public because it's hard for me to take it seriously when it's like, it all just seems like a big fucking show. Yeah.
So that's why it kind of makes me just laugh when people are kind of like, well, I wish that everybody would respect our privacy. And it's like, you have cameras following you around. And no, that doesn't work that way.
And, going back to Brian, it's funny. Brian was done with wrestling. Like when they forced him to retire, he said, I was done. I had signed up for college. And then they go, yeah, but we want you to do the Cruiserweight Classic. And he said, I love wrestling. I'll be glad to do it. And while he's doing the Cruiserweight Classic, they're like, yeah, by the way, Total Bellas, and we want you to be the GM. And he's like, well, fuck, now I can't get away from it. And now I really want to do it. I was just about okay with like not being in wrestling. And I got kind of put into this position where it was like, I have to do this because I can't be around this. And it's unfortunate because, again, everything's a big fucking show. There is that rumor, by the way, that John didn't even want to propose to her at WrestleMania 33. He just wanted the match with The Undertaker. And they're like, but John, this will be a great moment.
Right.
I don't know. It sucks for everybody involved.
And it also gets a little bit suspicious because it's like, well, who do they end up having that match with? Miz and Maurice. Who gets a TV show a couple months later? Miz and Maurice. And it's like, I see what you're doing here. Like that kind of thing. And I don't know. I'm sure next week the hot tags will say something like, that John Cena and Nikki Bella decide that instead of having kids, they want to, I don't know, murder a bunch of kids or something. I don't know. Whatever it'll happen.
They're going to move to Africa and start charities.
They're going to adopt Angelina Jolie's kids, and she's sick and tired of them, and they'll adopt some 15-year-olds or something. And then those
adopt
people...
Angelina Jolie.
Maybe that'll be the case, even. And then we'll get second generation superstar Angelina Jolie wrestling. This is a random thing. I figured I'd add it in here because I usually like to talk about trademark stuff, but this one isn't really as confusing as most of them are. Usually we're sitting there going, WWE has trademarked like the Susquehanna Shuffle. What's it going to be? Is it a pay-per-view or whatever? Well, they trademarked Pete Dunne.
Oh, which is weird to me because
clearly this is a pay-per-view, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for October's Pete Dunne pay-per-view special.
Where, like, since everything has to be like a gimmick now, it's like Hell in a Cell and TLC and stuff. For this one, it's just that Pete Dunne has to wrestle.
It's just 2 hour. It's a 3-hour show of Pete Dunne.
Just him fighting other people named Pete Dunne. They don't have to necessarily be wrestlers, but he just like fights them.
Yeah,
he has like an eating challenge against somebody. I guess this just proves more than anything that they really, really like Pete Dunne. He's got this United Kingdom tournament coming up. They announced all the people that are in there. I don't know a damn thing about the majority of them, so can't be like, oh, go ahead and check out that great Dave Mastiff match. I don't know who he is. Kenny Williams and a couple of the other people had popped up recently, and we know that the first night of the tournament is going to be the tournament itself and a 6-man tag match. And then the second night of the tournament is going to be the winner of the tournament against Pete Dunne. So we could get a new United Kingdom champion coming up soon.
I can't believe he's been champion for a year already. That was a fast year.
A full year?
Yeah.
I thought he won it like, oh shit, yeah. Wow. I was just going to say, I thought he won it in like the early summer, and it's fucking May. So sometimes I'm still thinking it's March. I don't know. Don't quite understand it, but Pete Dunne gets a trademark, which is
but I wonder if they've trademarked Samoa Joe, because Pete Dunne's been wrestling as Pete Dunne for a while. I'm sure, like, if he gets released, which I don't think he will anytime soon, he'll want to be Pete Dunne elsewhere.
Especially since it's kind of confusing that his name is Peter England, from England. It's kind of just like, hi, I'm Johnny North Dakota, or something,
From Oklahoma, right?
Oh, yeah, from Kansas. But that at least is good for Pete Dunne in the sense that it shows WWE values him enough that they want to trademark that. So he's not going anywhere for anytime soon. That's good for him.
You see the Inked magazine photo shoot with Corey Graves, Baron Corbin, and your favorite Ruby Riott?
No, that just sounds terrible, though. I'm glad they stopped Superstar Inc. Did not like that show. Just gonna tell us about your tattoos.
Ran out of people too quick.
Maybe they did. I don't know. Well, they would have had like Ruby Riott and stuff on there if they would have wanted to, because I don't think she was a part of that.
No, I don't think she was there yet.
But how many times can you really ask anybody about their tattoos and have them be like, well, "This is really important to me because Rose represents my great aunt Sally, and she was really influential in my life. She used to babysit me and give me cookies Wednesday nights after school, and." So I got a tattoo. This one's a snake because snakes are bitching, like kind of a thing.
I like snakes.
Let's talk about the table 4-4. Or the table 43. Or
what bothered me about that, and I guess I shouldn't be too because they probably couldn't get the Dudleys. But if you just gotten the Dudleys,
it would have been 3 tag teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was confusing to me at first. And I was typing this out at first. I was just like, what's the network special for this week? And I'm like, oh, it's a table for 3 with Edge and Christian and Jeff. And I was like, wait, what? And Edge and Christian and Jeff and Matt. Table for 3. 4 chairs. But it worked. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good episode. It was TLC Icons, and even though we didn't have the Dudley Boys, they talked about their ladder matches and their history together, and it felt like most TLC, or not TLC, most Table for 3 segments where it was just like rushed. Like, they even alluded to it at the end of the episode. They were saying that like they could talk for 12 hours, and it was like, well, when they do these, they're only doing it for like 28 minutes or so, and I always kind of feel like maybe they recorded it for like 2 hours. And I kind of would just like to see that, like it's the WWE Network. You could use as much footage as you can. Just put the 2 hours up there or whatever,
And Jim Cornette kind of said that when he did his Table for 3 with Bischoff and Michael Hayes, that they actually talked for about 2 hours, and it got cut down to 20 minutes. And I don't get why. Because, again, as you said, you're on your own network. You don't have time constraints. Just show the full conversation. I liked the little bits that we got. Nothing groundbreaking, but for me, those guys, it's just always fun to hear their stories.
Was there anything that kind of stood out to you about it?
The funny moment with Devon when they're hanging from the belts at SummerSlam, and he's going, "Jeff, stop kicking me! Seriously, stop kicking me!" And I like the little Matt Hardy. I've been blessed by green beans.
Yeah, that's
wonderful.
I like the episode. I think that's one of the see-its that people should do. Go ahead and watch it if you get a chance. It's it's like 20-something minutes, so it's not like you're really screwing your whole day up by checking it out, and you can do that while you're vacuuming or something. You'll have fun.
Look at all four of those guys, and they're really part of that era that I grew up watching, and they're some of the best, and I might even say all four of them might be some of the most underrated talents ever.
I thought it was kind of funny, too. I don't know if anybody read it the same way that I did, but it seemed like nobody understood what Edge's point was when he was like, well, there's Brett and Sean, and then it seemed like everybody else was just like waiting for him to finish a different sentence, and then they're like,
no, there's nobody else, and he's like, there's Brett and there's Sean, and everybody just kind of looks at him, and that didn't get cut in the 20 minutes. But...
No, that didn't get cut, and still they probably had like some other good stories and stuff, because I can imagine that these guys are like legitimately really good friends, and when you get people like that together and they can bullshit around, and actually we saw the server again, so this clearly is something that they've just decided that they were like, yeah, why don't we just show them actually like handing them the food and stuff, and people were not eating just salad, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
They had real meals.
Steak looks kind of good.
I thought it was interesting that Matt was like, yeah, I was really ready to get away from the whole Team Extreme thing. Like, that's not me as a person. That's Jeff, and that works for him, but that's not who I am.
Yeah, and it shows now, because he's been trying to do things other than that. The Woken stuff, more so the Broken stuff, the version 1.
Were you watching when they did version 1?
Nope, not at the time.
Oh, man. That was still some of the funniest stuff, and I think it's really hilarious how Matt was made fun of a lot for his dependence on internet culture and whatever early forms of social media there were, and he was just on the cutting edge, and he knew, that these things would blow up. But yeah, version 1 was one of my favorite angles.
Did they ever do version 2?
They never did.
They should have. He should have just been like, when he went out for like an injury or something like that, he should have been like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be version 2. I'm going to be upgraded,
I think he didn't get upgraded. He became Woken.
Well, then he was Broken first. Broken and then Woken, and maybe now, like, if they can't keep this Woken thing going forward, maybe he goes back and he's just version 2. And Shannon Moore pops up and everybody's like, who the fuck is this? Because Shannon Moore.
Oh, nobody would know Shannon Moore in 2018.
Nah,
that's
not
unfortunate.
A chance. I remember actually being behind Shannon Moore as a potential cruiserweight champion around that time, that the belt stopped existing. I was actually like, oh, I like this Shannon Moore guy. He could be the next champion. And then they gave it to Hornswoggle. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I guess they don't want to do anything with this. And then it went away.
Oh, this, I don't know where this was reported, but this was kind of floated around in our group chat earlier. According to Callum, there's reports that Vince or the higher ups at WWE are really just giving up on the tag divisions.
Yeah, I saw something about that, and I really hope it's not true, but it kind of seems like it is. Well, I mean, we haven't seen any build to any feud for the Bludgeon Brothers. They've been doing like some stuff here and there on Monday Night Raw. Like, you can tell that Ziggler and McIntyre are not a long-term tag team, but they have done the B team. So, like, they're still playing around with stuff, but there is a rumor that Big E might be splitting from the New Day, and there's always a potential that, like, the Bar splits up, and, you know, they clearly do not value a team like the Revival. They've never given them a push. They never do anything with the Good Brothers.
the revival thing really upsets me because NXT has done such a good job of rebuilding the credibility of being a worthwhile tag team, and then you just get to the main roster and it all goes to shit.
When's
And
the
I
last
really
time we
hope,
saw the Authors of Pain, even?
I was gonna say that. I think it was 2 weeks ago, or I think they're already relegated to doing main event.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, I'm guessing that they're on a downswing with tag teams, which sucks.
And with this whole co-branded pay-per-view thing, we're pretty much never going to get the tag teams on those
Which
cards.
means the first thing to go, just like the last time they did the brand split, is unified tag team titles.
Yep. And the tag team titles pretty much only get defended on a few pay-per-views here and there. You do some kind of a... I'm really thinking between Survivor Series and Clash of Champions, if Survivor Series this year isn't Raw versus SmackDown, because they could do some other alternatives to that. They could just do, like, there's a Raw Survivor Series team and a SmackDown Survivor Series team, and then, like, that's kind of it and stuff. But they could do that, and they could do some kind of, like, Clash of Champions is when that happens, where they get, like, the Raw versus SmackDown thing. Or they could do the scenario where maybe the belts merge on SmackDown. Because another thing, and this is the big story of the week, SmackDown is said to be moving to Fox in October. And by the time November comes around and Survivor Series, we're going to be past that point of both shows being on the USA Network. And that could be a huge change in this brand split. I think a lot of people aren't really kind of given that the credit that it really deserves, because there's a lot to this deal. Like, they have said already that USA is paying 3 times as much for Monday Night Raw as what they were currently doing. And this deal with SmackDown moving to Fox is a 5-year agreement worth more than $1 billion, $205 million annually. That's accordingly to the the different sources and stuff. That is also 3 times the current deal that's on USA, and that they turned down a bigger offer from another network because they wanted Fox to be able to promote SmackDown on, like, NFL, Major League Baseball, that kind of a thing. They wanted that little crossover between sports. But there are contradictory reports that there's possibly a 3-hour jump. Just add another hour to it. They could be moving to Friday nights. They could potentially, especially if it's not on Tuesdays anymore, might not be live anymore. And I'm still hearing some stuff that this might not actually air on Fox, and it might be on FS1.
I think the key components to this are, what Fox network is it going to go on?
That's a huge part of it. If it's on Fox itself,
FS1, but I pass it all the time, and I know all they show is UFC, so that could very easily be the channel that it goes to.
I think that they're keeping UFC, aren't they?
No, I think they gave it up.
I hope it's not FS1, because I didn't even know that FS1 was a channel. Like, I mean, I don't just channel surf anyway as it is, but to me, like, if that happens, I'm going to have to find out what the hell channel FS1 is, because Fox is the better option for sure. There's no debate.
I was, and this is just me trying to just dream up a great scenario, thinking about SmackDown going on to FX and possibly becoming more of a gritty brand. FX got the shows like, they got the true crime stuff. They've got the Sons of Anarchy, or had Sons of Anarchy. They've got Atlanta. I'm kind of imagining a world where it goes on to FX and we can get a more adult-oriented show.
Well, that's confusing too, because even in that scenario, what's going on with this Disney thing? Because Disney's buying out a good chunk of what Fox is actually a company for. And there's of course, there's people that know this kind of stuff more than I am, so I'm not going to be like, oh, I know the whole deal and all that other kind of crap. But there are monopoly rules where they might not be able to merge some aspects of their companies, and if they do, they would have to just like liquidate certain aspects. Like, you can't own multiple networks, essentially. You can own like NBC, Universal, Comcast, that whole kind of thing. You can own USA and NBC and blah, blah, blah. But you can't have, say, CBS and ABC or something like that. And all that kind of crap is confusing. And that's why there's like the AT&T Warner type of situation that's kind of problematic in some ways. And this Disney thing with Fox, Comcast is supposed to be trying to get into there a little bit too. And if that happens, then what happens with FX and what happens with Fox? And Fox is supposed to be...
Okay, so apparently they're kind of absorbing the 20th Century Fox studio.
Right.
And the FX networks, as well as National Geographic and Fox's international channels. So
it almost seems to me...
and the FS1 network are fine.
Yeah, it almost seems to me that the deal is sort of Fox would try to keep news and sports.
I think that's exactly where they're going.
And Disney would get their share of like Sky Sports or whatever it was, and I think that they have like some kind of a stake in Hulu and such. So they would get obviously access to like the X-Men and the certain characters that 20th Century Fox has for the movies and everything like that. But that also seems to have played at least a little bit of a factor into the most recent cancellations. And the two networks that canceled more TV shows than anything this year were ABC and Fox, which is not a coincidence. And I think that with this whole idea of SmackDown moving over, there's positives and there's negatives, of course. But if they're on Fox itself, that's really good for SmackDown. Except... you could fuck it all up by having it not live and on Friday nights.
Oh, yeah. I think one thing that this move is going to do is establish SmackDown as the definitive B show yet again.
And the thing is, it could go the opposite way if they don't have a couple of elements like that. Admittedly, I don't want to see SmackDown become a 3-hour show.
Please don't.
But if it does, and they stay on Tuesdays, and they stay live, and they're on Fox, they will certainly try to give it a push. Because it's going to be on a brand new network. And they're going to be like, well, why don't we get some more attention? Why don't we do some kind of like mini superstar shakeup kind of a deal? Like we have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to USA because we signed a deal with them that like they always kind of stick around with us and stuff. So let's sacrifice a little from Raw. Try to give SmackDown a little bit of a boost. But if it's not live, they're fucked. And if it's especially 3 hours and not live, and on Friday nights, and it already has a smaller roster, they are so screwed. No matter what this deal is, a 5-year deal for $1 billion and such, Fox isn't going to want to renew that in 4 years or so, or they might even have some kind of an out for it. Because if they're not, like, whatever they're getting now, they're getting like 0.7 in like the Nielsen ratings and stuff. They're not going to be able to keep that when they're not live and on Friday nights. Nobody's going to give a shit.
Oh yeah, if they go back to being able to read the full results of SmackDown, people are going to know that they don't need to tune in, or if they want to tune in, when they should tune in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they'll just look on YouTube for the highlight reels. People will post them. They'll get them taken down. They'll get YouTube channels taken down and stuff. But then it'll be like, all right, here's like the 8 minutes you need to watch of SmackDown. And also, what happens with 205 Live at that point? Because if 205 Live is going to be at the same time when it comes to like recording it on Tuesday nights and stuff and recording SmackDown, then what do? They just have like, hey, all right, show up and watch 205 Live at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. That's going to be a little strange. They will probably move that to before SmackDown's recording time and maybe do that at 8 o'clock or something like that. And that throws everything off. And if they don't do that on Tuesdays and they move to Fridays and they try to keep that live, then what do they do with the live event schedules? What do they do with the typical recording schedules? Because they used to record that on Tuesday night anyway. I think we're at a market right now where we can't do SmackDown taped.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're not going to know until October. So that's one thing. But with October in mind, that brings up the whole thing with the brand split stuff. If that happens in October, I would not be too shocked if that Survivor Series and that Clash of Champions ends up being champion versus champion. We merge the belts. Because at that point, Brock Lesnar is not going to be champion. What if we end up getting the belts merging as the big highlight of Survivor Series? Clash of Champions becomes whoever the champions were before they get another title shot, kind of a thing. All the championships are on the line. And then in January, we start Royal Rumble, and then it just becomes, for the next couple of months, you won't have to worry about the fact that we only have one champion per thing. And then suddenly we're back into that era where it's not really necessarily a brand split anymore.
I really hope that they don't split things, because they just split the brands. They just created this universal title and these Raw and SmackDown titles. And yeah, they're completely stupid when it comes to name-wise, and the universal title especially, I wouldn't want to see it merged, just because the idea that you created a belt specifically just so Brock Lesnar could be champion and never be around, it just really pisses me off.
We're going to have to see. I'm going to keep my eye on that quite a bit, though. I think everybody else should as well, because I think that that's going to be one of the biggest indications of where we are in 2019 when it comes to October. In the next few months, actually, they might be big indicators, too, because if we see Roman Reigns, they're clearly building up Roman Reigns to beat Brock Lesnar again. He comes out every week talking about fighting Brock Lesnar.
And they're really pushing this, and I know Money in the Bank's a little far off, but I don't want to say too much. But they're really pushing this idea that Roman is this anti-authority, it's not the board of directors anymore, it's upper management doesn't like Roman Reigns. I hate this. Nobody buys this. Why are they doing this?
It's just delusion.
But we are getting the first Roman Reigns match that shouldn't close out a pay-per-view.
Oh, God, if it does. Jesus. It's a possibility. You never know. I think that the only other hot tag we were like bouncing around was this thing with Enzo. What's he doing? He's going to be popping up on Times Square to say hi to everybody.
To say thank you to those that have supported him. As everybody should know by now, it's been officially announced that no charges will be filed against him, which is good for him. You know, he posted an Instagram post saying, I want to, thank everybody. And, he said he's going to see people in Times Square to thank them for their support. And I mean, Enzo does have somewhat of a following. This could be interesting.
What's the over-under on how many times that he is going to tell somebody, I'm Gucci, bro?
I don't know.
It has to be in the hundreds.
I was going to say at least double digits, but you're going one more, so.
I'm going like 140 or something like that, because I'm assuming he'll at least repeat it twice to almost everybody.
I got a little bit of a backlash in the group chat for saying bada boom, luckiest guy in the room. But I'm sure he's gonna say something of the sort.
God, that's a mess. The Times Square stuff is awful as it is.
The good news is he's not gonna be a celebrity. He's just gonna be an obnoxious New Yorker.
What would be really funny to see is if like Enzo's walking around there and nobody's stopping him, and he's just perpetually walking in like circles or something like that. That'd be pretty funny to see. Maybe like the naked cowboy
Enzo
would.
Dance.
Oh God, yeah, even better if he's doing that. And it's like the crossing guards and stuff are just sort of like, do we got to call the cops on this dude? Another one escaped from,
Well, he
whatever
did shave
local
the
asylum.
beard, so he's not looking as scraggly, you know?
Does he still have that chicken haircut?
It's still blonde. I don't think he has it stylized in the chicken haircut, but he might for the public appearance, because who knows?
Well, if you are in the New York area and you want to hang out Memorial Day with Enzo for some reason.
Well, I'll read you the post. It says, I'll be breaking my social media silence in Times Square at 9:15 p.m. on 5/28/18 for one big Instagram. How you doing? Happy Memorial Day. Big shout out to all who served.
That's funny. Well, I think that's those are the hot tags, right? I don't think we had anything else, right?
I think, is that it?
I think so.
Hold on, let me just...
SmackDown, big cast, Pete Dunne, Bella and Cena, table for 3, and Enzo. And like a couple little side notes here and there about like Orton and such. I don't think I had anything else.
All right,
everybody. Well, tell us what you think about this in the comments section below, as you should always be doing. Make sure that you also hit that subscribe button on YouTube and ring the bell for notifications, because the next thing that we're going to be doing a little bit later on in this week is going to be the May mailbag. So send in those questions as soon as you can, because we need a little bit of time to sort of go through them, and I need to pick out the ones that we're going to talk about and such. Peter, ahead of time, sent a bunch of different questions about the Sexiest Superstars tournament. Not going to be addressing those, Peter. I'm sorry, because they're mostly like statistics wise and stuff, so we wouldn't really have too much to really like go based off of. But I also want to put out there that tournament is going to be coming up sometime relatively soon, in the next like 4 weeks or so. So I'm going to be posting some stuff on the Mega Maniacs group where we're going to do like some preliminary round type stuff. So if you have not ever signed up for our Facebook group, it's facebook.com/groups/themegamaniacs, and that's where you'll be able to see that stuff ahead of time. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the mailbag. As I mentioned before, send in those questions as soon as you can. And the week after that, we're going to be kind of up in the air. We don't know what we're going to do yet for that one, so we'll pay attention to that when we get a chance to. But if you have any suggestions about what you'd like to see, drop them in the comments below too, either for this edition or the mailbag, and we'll sort of start sorting that out a little bit over the next couple of days.
Are we doing superstar scores on Hoobie?
It's a possibility. I was considering that we should do superstar scores Nicholas and just, defeat the whole purpose of bringing that segment back. But we might do superstar scores page. We could do the first edition of One More Match. We could do top rope list. Another play the game. There's a lot of different options we could do. So, all that's coming your way when it's coming your way. And as I mentioned before, if you subscribe, then you'll be aware of when those videos are going to be up. And another way that you could be aware of it, if you prefer to listen to this on iTunes and Stitcher, is to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment, and the RSS feed of SmarkOutMoment.com, which will also include the different things on the website that aren't podcast related, like the 5 weekly articles, the Triple Threat and such, and whatever else we end up doing. We could always just have some other things down the pipeline. So stay tuned for that stuff. Have fun. Keep supporting us. Buy a t-shirt, that kind of stuff, especially since they keep taking down all of my shit recently. God, I've had 40 t-shirt designs getting taken down over the past month, basically. Like,
which ones?
All the Simpsons ones, all the Sonic the Hedgehog ones, a couple Grand Theft Auto ones. WWE took down another Eat, Sleep, Repeat type of thing, because they really don't like me doing this Brock Lesnar stuff. Anything like that. So if you ever see on the Mega Maniacs or Facebook or something like that there's a brand new shirt design, buy it as soon as you can, because you never know how long it's going to last. And
gonna go out on a limb here and say I don't think you'll ever have to worry about the Juventud Pornhub parody.
Yeah, that is a new one. I haven't put that up on the website yet, but I put it up on the TeePublic. Yeah, just the Pornhub logo with Juventud, because I don't know, why the fuck not, right? So if you want to support Juventud Guerrera and Pornhub somehow, and Smark Out Moment, then spend $14 and buy a t-shirt or something.
How is your Dwayne Johnson 2020 still on the website?
I have no idea. I still don't know why. The TeePublic even told me themselves, they're like, wow, I'm really surprised that one's still up. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to question it. But that stuff is in the pipeline for all that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching this episode, everybody. You can follow us on our own social media accounts. I'm at Tony Mango and Robert's at Dude Felice.
That's
Anything
right.
else you want to toss out?
No, that's it. I'm sure I'll be doing the triple threat this week because I always do the triple threat. So stay tuned to smarkoutmoment.com for the weeklies and whatever else we're doing. And we'll see you here probably, what are we doing? Sometime this week.
Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I haven't quite decided yet. Kind of depends on my schedule and stuff. So
gotta defer to the department of headquarters.
Somebody bought a "Hello, my name is Jeff" shirt somewhat recently. I was like, wow, really? Okay, somebody out there is wearing a t-shirt, and they might not have no idea what the context of that is, but I like it anyway. Thanks for listening to this, everybody. Per usual, hot tags in the bag. Hot bags, I guess, kind of. 338 is done. We'll see you next time, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.